surrounded, without food, on Christmas. A cook found 200 geese and stopped desertion. Good day. If carefully told war stories like this resonate with you, please consider supporting this video with a like. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new episodes and our future explorations of military history. And feel free to leave a comment about which story you would like to hear next. Act 1. Starvation. At 300 hours on December 24, 1944, Sergeant Joseph Laff stood by an empty field kitchen in Bastogne, Belgium. 32 years old, a cook, 6th Battalion, 101st Airborne Division, 3 years of service. Before him, empty pots, no food, no flour, no oil, only snow, and 5,000 starving American soldiers. Germans blocked all roads. Airdrops fell into enemy hands. The last ration consumed the day before. Soldiers starved for the 4th day straight. Laff knew the military axiom. A starving army doesn't fight. A starving army surrenders, or deserts. Soldiers' faces turned gray, emaciated, eyes empty. Some couldn't hold rifles. Hands trembled from weakness. Private Miller lost consciousness that morning, simply collapsed in snow. Medics were powerless. Nothing to feed him with. Captain Williams approached the kitchen. Company commander. His haggard face said one thing: time was running out. 1 day remained until mass surrender. Maybe 2. Tomorrow was Christmas. December 25th. Back home, American families would gather around holiday tables. Turkey, pies, warmth. Here, snow, death, and hunger. Laff remembered his childhood in Illinois. Father's farm. Every Christmas, Mother cooked goose, roasted, with apples. The smell filled the entire house. Goose. He looked at the map. A Belgian village 1 kilometer north. Not behind the front line, in neutral zone. Germans didn't patrol there constantly. Belgian farmers kept geese. Tradition. For Christmas, they fattened birds. Hundreds of geese on each farm. The plan crystallized instantly. Steal geese, feed the army, save the division. The captain approved the operation unofficially. Officially, knew nothing. If the team got caught by Germans, the army would disavow them. Laff chose 4 men: Private Davis, Corporal Jones, Private O'Connor, Private Schmidt. 4 hungry, angry soldiers, ready for anything for food. Act 2. Night Raid. At 0430 hours, the team loaded into a jeep. Darkness. Snow fell in a thick curtain. Visibility, 50 meters. Perfect for covert movement. Germans wouldn't see. Jones drove without headlights. Slowly. By memory and compass. The road wound between snow-covered fields. Dark forest to the right. Ruins of a shell-damaged farm to the left. A German patrol passed 100 meters away. 6 soldiers with torches searching for partisans. Americans instantly hit the snow. Held their breath. Germans passed by. Didn't notice the jeep in the white shroud. 15 minutes later, the team entered the village. 5 houses, all windows dark. Inhabitants sleeping. A large barn stood at the settlement's edge. The characteristic honking of geese came from inside. Davis smashed the lock with his rifle butt. Dry crack of wood echoed through the night silence. Door swung open. Inside the barn, 200 geese, white, fat, fattened for Christmas tables. Perfect birds. Laff felt hope for the first time in a week. Loading began. Geese exploded in panic, screamed like air raid sirens, honking, hissing, flapping wings. The noise woke the entire village. Soldiers grabbed birds by necks, shoved them into the jeep. Geese resisted desperately, bit, beat wings against faces. One broke free, ran into snow. O'Connor caught the escapee after 50 meters. Light came on in the farmhouse. Window flew open. An elderly Belgian ran onto the porch in his nightshirt. Saw Americans loading his geese. Screamed in French. Cursed. Waved his arms. Laff tried to explain in broken French. Hunger. Encirclement. Dying soldiers. Extended all his money, $20. Payment for birds. Fair transaction. The farmer spat in snow, knocked the money away. His wife ran out next, also screaming, threatening. Davis slowly raised his rifle. Didn't aim at people, just held the weapon in view. Silent argument of force. The farmer fell silent. Looked at the rifle, at the gaunt, hungry faces of young soldiers, at the jeep packed with his geese. Stared for a long time, then turned around. Went into the house silently. Slammed the door. Laff picked up the money from snow. Placed it carefully on the porch. Quietly spoke apologies into the frozen void. No one heard. The team loaded the last birds. 192 total. The jeep sagged under the weight. Suspension creaked. Suddenly, German shout from darkness. Patrol. 4 Wehrmacht soldiers 30 meters away. Noticed movement at the barn. Act 3. Escape. Jones started the engine. Floored the gas pedal. Jeep lunged forward. Wheels spun in snow. Caught traction. Machine shot ahead. Geese screamed in panic. Feathers flew in white clouds, mixed with snow. Germans opened disorganized fire. Bullets whistled in darkness. One pierced the Jeep's metal fender. Another killed a goose in the back seat. Bird went limp. Davis turned around. Fired a long burst from his carbine. Tracers streaked. Germans instinctively hit the snow. 10 seconds gained. Jeep flew out of the village at 60 kilometers per hour. On narrow snow-covered road, skidded on every turn. Jones gripped the wheel with both hands. Knuckles white from tension. Yellow headlights flared behind. German Kubelwagen, Wehrmacht field vehicle. Began pursuit. Distance, 200 meters. German MG-34 opened fire. Machine gun burst. Tracer bullets flew over the Jeep. One hit the rear tire. Rubbers exploded. Jeep jerked hard right. Swung toward the road's edge, nearly flipped into the ditch. Jones straightened the machine through force of will. Drove on the rim. Sparks flew from under the wheel. Silhouettes appeared ahead. American positions. Barricade of sandbags. 100 meters. 70. 50. Laff leaned out of the Jeep, shouted warning into the night. Friendlies, don't shoot. American sentry recognized the Jeep's silhouette. Waved hand. Let them through the barrier. German Kubelwagen braked sharply at the front line. Stood for several seconds. Turned around, drove back into darkness. Germans didn't risk breaking through American positions. The team survived. All 5 intact, and they brought 192 geese to Bastogne's field kitchen. Act 4. Preparing the feast. Dawn of December 25th. Christmas 1944. Laff laid out goose carcasses on snow near the kitchen, in neat rows. 192 birds. Soldiers began gathering. First 10 men, then 50, then 100. Stared at the birds silently, didn't believe their eyes. 4 days without food broke perception of reality, seemed like a mirage. Hunger, hallucination. But the geese were real, dead, ready for processing. Laff assembled 10 volunteer cooks. Medics provided surgical knives. Soldiers brought firewood from ruins. Dismantled a burned houseboard by board. Preparation began, plucking, gutting, butchering, washing in snow water. Laff's 30 years of culinary experience kicked in automatically. Hands moved quickly, confidently, precisely. Each movement refined by thousands of repetitions. By noon, 192 geese were ready for thermal processing. A technical problem arose. Field kitchen designed for boiling soup in large pots. Not for roasting whole meat. Different technology needed. Laff found a solution in 5 minutes. Improvised spits. Metal rods from fragments of a destroyed Sherman. Soldiers dragged pieces from the wrecked tank. Cut them. Installed over 15 fires. 12 geese per fire. Birds mounted on rods. Rotated manually. Soldiers stood duty at fires. Turned spits every 5 minutes. Fat dripped into flames. Flared. The smell of roasted meat began spreading through Bastogne positions. Slowly. Inexorably. Penetrated trenches. Dugouts. Destroyed houses. Soldiers crawled from shelters. Moved toward the field kitchen. Sniffed the air. Stopped. Stood silently. Some had tears running down dirty cheeks. Physiological reaction of organisms to food, smell after prolonged starvation. By 1400 hours, the first batch was ready. 12 birds. Golden, crispy skin. Juicy white meat inside. Laff cut the first goose with a knife. Checked doneness. Perfect. Passed the first plate to Captain Williams, company commander, the one who approved the night operation. Captain took a fork. Cut a piece of breast, put it in his mouth, slowly chewed, closed his eyes. Tears ran down his haggard face. He didn't speak a word, just kept eating, slowly, consciously, each piece. Organized distribution began. Laff established strict order, 1 portion per soldier, no exceptions. Leg, wing, piece of breast, fair resource distribution. Mathematics was simple. 5,000 men, 192 geese. Average bird weight, 5 kilograms. Total meat weight, 960 kilograms. Per person, 190 grams. Not much, but enough. Enough to restore strength, enough to continue fighting. Soldiers ate silently, greedily, concentrated. Some choked on large pieces. Ate too quickly. Stomachs unprepared after 4 days of starvation. Medics circulated among eaters. Warned, slower. Chew thoroughly. Risk of choking. Risk of stomach spasms. Nobody listened to medical recommendations. Ate like wild animals. Like people returned from death to life. Act 5. Effect on morale. By 1700 hours, 2,000 men fed. 3,000 more stood in organized queue. Discipline maintained strictly. No fights. Everyone understood. Enough food for all. Laff's calculation proved mathematically precise. General Anthony McAuliffe heard about the Goose operation by 1,500 hours. Commander of Bastogne's defense, Brigadier General of 101st Airborne Division, the man who 2 days earlier answered Germans with 1 word to their surrender ultimatum. Nuts, the most famous refusal to surrender in American military history. Now, McAuliffe searched for the cook who stole 200 Belgian geese and fed the surrounded division. Found Laff at the 7th fire. Sergeant covered in soot, smoke, and poultry grease. Worked without break for 13 hours straight. General asked, was Laff who organized the night raid? Sergeant stood at attention. Dirty, exhausted. Confirmed, yes sir, his operation. McAuliffe smiled. Broadly. First time in 5 days of siege. Called Laff a tactical genius. Requested his portion of roasted goose. Laff personally cut the general a full plate. Breast, leg, wing, general's portion. McAuliffe sat directly on an ammunition crate. Ate slowly. Savored each piece. Then spoke a phrase that entered the division's oral history. A starving army surrenders. A fed army fights. Laff gave men strength to continue resistance. Evening brought heavy blizzard. Visibility dropped to 0. Germans postponed planned attack. Weather conditions prevented coordinating tank and infantry actions. Americans used the respite. Ate, recovered, cleaned weapons, prepared for next battle. Soldiers gathered around 15 fires, last geese roasting. shared memories of home, of peaceful life, of families. Someone began singing Silent Night, traditional Christmas carol. Voices hoarse from cold and exhaustion, but alive, human. The song spread through Bastogne trenches. Hundreds of voices picked up the melody, sang in English. In German, those who knew original text. In French, local residents from cellars. Christmas 1944 in a surrounded city. Snow, war, death nearby. But people sang and ate roasted geese. Laff sat by his kitchen, watched soldiers, their faces. Color returned to skin. Eyes shone again. Someone laughed. First time in days. Corporal Jones brought a flask of whiskey. Trophy, German. Extended to Laff. Toast for the cook who saved the division with tin cans and stolen geese. Laff took a sip. Sharp, burning, warming from inside. At midnight, German artillery resumed shelling. 88 shells fell on the city ruins, explosions, shrapnel, dust and snow in columns. But Americans held, fed, restored, ready. Act 6. Breaking the siege. On December 26th at dawn, Germans launched massive attack. 12th SS Panzer Division, 30 Panther and Tiger tanks, 1,000 infantry, artillery support. Objective: capture Bastogne before Patton's relief forces arrived. Americans met the attack with organized fire. Bazookas, Browning machine guns, mortars, anti-tank guns. Soldiers who yesterday barely stood from hunger today repelled tank assault from 300 meters. Shot accurately, coolly. Strength returned to bodies. Laff didn't participate in combat. Continued cooking last geese. Fed reserves. Fed wounded in field hospitals. Fed artillerymen and mortar crews. One German Panther tank broke through first defense line. Headed straight for field kitchen. Turret rotated. 75-millimeter gun aimed at Laff. Private O'Connor jumped from adjacent foxhole. M9A1 bazooka on shoulder. Aimed. Fired from 50 meters. Grenade hit tank track. Explosion. Track tore apart. Tank stopped. Crew evacuated through hatches. O'Connor shouted to Laff through battle roar. Nobody touches our cook. Nobody. By 1200 hours, German attack faltered. Wehrmacht losses. 8 tanks destroyed. 320 killed and wounded. American losses, 23 killed. 47 wounded. Defense line held. At 14:43 hours, soldiers on southern perimeter saw tank column on horizon. Emerged from behind hill. Dozens of machines. Identification marks, white stars. American tanks. General George Patton's Third Army. Broke German encirclement from south. Siege of Bastogne ended after 7 days. Soldiers shouted, embraced, cried. Fired into air from joy, survived, all survived. Patton entered liberated city in command jeep, found McAuliffe at headquarters. Asked with sarcasm, "How'd you hold?" McAuliffe answered briefly, "Excellently, thanks to stolen geese." Patton didn't understand. McAuliffe told entire story. About Sergeant Laff, about night raid, about 200 Belgian geese, about Christmas feast for 5,000 starving soldiers. Patton listened, face stone, then exploded with laughter, loud, rolling, slapped his thigh. Geese, stolen geese held strategic city, stopped last German offensive on Western Front. Patton demanded meeting with Laff, found cook at field kitchen, washing pots, dirty, exhausted from 30 hours continuous work. Patton asked directly. "Idiot or genius?" Laff answered honestly. "Just a cook, sir. Did his job." Patton shook his head, spoke phrase for history. Feeding an army more important than arming it. Logistics wins wars. Laff proved it with 200 geese. General shook Sergeant's hand. Drove to front to organize further offensive. Act 7. Aftermath. Sergeant Joseph Laff received a Silver Star in February 1945, ceremony and liberated Bastogne, for initiative, resourcefulness, and bravery in performing combat mission. General McAuliffe personally pinned medal to Cook's dirty field uniform. Official award citation stated. Sergeant Laff organized procurement of food for surrounded troops, thereby preventing starvation and maintaining division morale at critical moment of defense. Unofficially, everyone knew truth. Cook stole 200 geese from Belgian farmers and fed 5,000 soldiers on Christmas. Story spread through entire army. Soldiers told each other in trenches. Journalists wrote articles for army newspapers. Photographers shot Laff at his legendary field kitchen. One cook, one night raid, 200 stolen geese. Changed outcome of critical World War II battle. Laff continued service until end of European War, May 1945. Fed soldiers every day, made soups, roasted meat, baked bread in field conditions. Returned home to Illinois November 1946. Demobilized. Opened own restaurant with savings and army bonus. Named establishment Christmas Goose. Restaurant operated 42 years. House specialty. Roasted goose with apples. Traditional recipe. Laff cooked personally until 72. Died 1992. 80 years old. Silver Star always hung framed on restaurant wall. Next to it, black and white photograph. Laff in dirty military uniform at field kitchen in Bastogne, holding goose by neck, smiling tired smile. Under photograph, copper plaque with engraving. A starving army surrenders. A fed army wins. December 1944. Bastogne. Today, few remember Sergeant Joseph Laff's name. Military historians write about tank battles, about general strategy, about major operations. But 3,000 soldiers of 101st Airborne Division remembered all their lives. Wrote Laff letters after war. Thanked him for salvation. Visited his Illinois restaurant. Always ordered roasted goose. Private O'Connor became state senator after war. Wrote memoirs in 1975. Dedicated separate chapter to Sergeant Laff. Quote from book. I fought 3 years, saw hundreds of acts of heroism. But greatest hero, Cook, who stole 200 geese on Christmas. He didn't kill a single enemy, but saved thousands of friends. That is true courage. Sergeant Laff's story demonstrates fundamental military truth. Wars aren't won only by weapons. Wars are won by logistics. Supply. Troop morale. One cook from Illinois intuitively understood this truth. Risked life for 200 Belgian geese. Fed starving division. Changed outcome of critical battle. Bastogne held not only through soldiers' bravery, Bastogne held through roasted geese on Christmas 1944. Operation cost, $0. Farmer refused money. Geese taken without payment. After war, United States Army paid compensation to Belgian farmers. $380 for 203 birds. Fair market price. Best $380 American Army ever spent. Price of victory at Bastogne,